They have, like frequent visits to the hospital for some or the other checkups. You're taking your baby for probably some vaccinations, or you're going to get your dressing changed, or, just see if everything's okay. I feel like similarly, there should be a mental health checkup as well.
Okay, I am so excited to speak to you, Unaiza, because I know we connected a couple of times and I just sort of resonated with a lot of things that you were talking about. And I figured it'll be a good idea to sort of just let our listeners in also on our discussion. And so you are a psychologist, you're
Yes.
also a new mom.
Yes.
And I think, you know, like we were discussing this, right? Just with being a new parent, there are so many things that go into that mix. And I'd love to just sort of start with just your own experience of, being a new mom, how you navigated that. And when we were discussing this the last time, you also
Yeah.
pointed out just all the different feelings that we may not necessarily be aware of as we are going through that
Yeah.
journey. And this topic is extremely close to my heart. It's
Yeah.
it's very personal to me as well, so I'd love to just kind of hear what your experience was, as a
Mhm.
new mom.
First of all, Nisha, thank you so much for having me. It's a great experience speaking to you and learning from you. And definitely, I know that this topic is holds a special place in your heart. I think this was a major reason why you got into advocating so much for mental health, especially for moms, because you have been through it. And I honestly think that only when someone goes through it is when they know. And there's no, like, you might have friends, of course friends really help you in this phase of your life, but having mom friends is a different thing, because they once you've gone through it, you're going to actually understand what a mom is talking about. So yeah, I mean, I feel like, especially in our South Asian culture, this is like giving birth is has become synonymous to woman, which I know it is, but it's made it's just expected out of her, and she's made to feel like, okay, but like, so what? So many women are giving birth around the world, but people don't realize that it's actually a very, very crucial stage in a woman's life, during her pregnancy, afterwards as well. And people have just, again, because we are going to be talking keeping our South Asian culture in mind, people here take it very, very lightly. And I think the whole point is, for us to create more awareness, so women who are going through this stage have a very amazing experience. They remember their pregnancy and their postpartum with a lot of happiness and with a lot of joy. They don't look back and experience sadness. And for that, yes, a lot of people are responsible. So, your social support system plays a crucial role.
You touched on something right now, that a lot of women look back on their pregnancy with just happiness. And I think in our society, and this is based on my own lived experience, and I'd love for you to agree or disagree, right?
Yes.
uh, that level of expectation that is put on a woman to give birth,
Yeah.
and everywhere you look and you read, they talk about motherhood as being this amazing journey, instant bond with the child. And for a lot of people that may not necessarily be the case. It, even if you have a very strong support system around you. um, I was reading in a book the other day that this whole journey for a woman starts even before she thinks of conceiving a baby, right? How are you mentally? Are you prepared for it? And even, I had an experience where even though you plan for a child, everybody in the sense, you and your partner have agreed to have a baby, and you've read all the baby books, you've done everything you can to
Yeah.
prepare for the arrival. But once the baby comes, you're suddenly left with, what did I just do?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely,
there is
absolutely.
that
Yeah.
there is that trauma in birth as well, right? Because you don't realize, like, it truly is and can be almost a life or death kind of a situation, because you don't know what to expect. Every woman's journey is different.
So
And so,
true.
with your experience, like, how 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 can someone, or what has your experience been with this whole journey of like giving birth? And it could be even your own experience or like clients you've
Mm-hmm.
spoken to, right?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like, and why is it so important in our South Asian culture, this
Yeah.
journey of motherhood, and having the best birthing experience, and
Mm-hmm.
then kind of pushing everything else under the rug, right?
Yeah.
We're supposed to will our depression away. We're supposed to will our postpartum depression away. We're supposed to will bonding with our child.
So
What has your
true.
experience been with that?
Hmm. So, yes, Pisha, to answer your question, I completely agree with what you have said. Everyone around us, and like in magazines and in movies, it's made to feel like motherhood is like, of course, there's mother always has a lot of love for her child, and it's made to, it's always made to look like a very beautiful experience, which yes, it is, but I think the definition of beautiful is different for every person. So yes, it's very very true that it takes for a woman, it takes some time to develop a bond with her child. It might not happen immediately because she herself is going through so much at that time when she's delivered. If it's a normal delivery or if it's a c-section, you might have stitches after being operated, you might have a tear and you might have stitches there. So like you're healing at that time, you're also you're at your weakest point basically. So it's so difficult to suddenly have a lot of have a connection with another person. Of course you have your child and you love them, but I think women should be given a lot of benefit of doubt at that time. They should be given liberty to take their time, and just the transition should be very smooth for them. And I really like this, somewhere I read just like you that at that time it's not just a child who is born, but a mother is born as well. And that's very true because it's a very new experience. Even if you're having a second child or a third child, with every child it's a different experience. So yes, for me, if I talk especially about me, I had a very difficult experience during my delivery as well. I tried very very hard for a normal delivery, but I had to be taken for an emergency C-section. So that was very traumatizing because you've prepared your body for something, and then all of a sudden, after hours of being into labor, suddenly the doctor says that we need to switch the plan. But at that time, you do whatever is good for safe for you and your child. But I think, yes, coming back to the point that we were discussing, social support is very important. Just having people around you who give you the time and space to accept what's happened and just not have any kind of like, unrealistic expectations from the mother. Just take some time sinking in, and of course at that time there's so much focus on the baby's sleeping routine and whether the baby's feeding well or not, but the same priority should be given to a mom as well, whether she's sleeping well, eating well. I think it's such a vast topic. We can have like a different talk altogether on how much a woman, what all she experiences and what all changes that she sees in her body. So of
Yeah.
course she's going through she's going through so many sudden changes. So the only thing that a woman wants at that time, I think, is just love and care from her partner, from her in-laws or parents or friends, whoever are around her. Just a little bit more patience and kindness, I think, goes a long way.
Yep. And I think you said, right, a mother is also born, even if it's your first child, second child, third child.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because your second child, you're suddenly a mom of two kids.
Two
If it's
kids.
your third
Yeah.
child, you're suddenly a mom of three kids. And that is a completely different experience than being a mom of one child or two children, right? Um, I think you also touched upon like patience and care.
Yeah.
One of the things I've noticed is a lot of the times the people around you are not necessarily aware of just that mental journey that the mom
Mhm.
is going through, right? We depend on the physical characteristics of a new mom, Does she look
Mm-hmm.
tired, or is she
Right.
getting enough sleep, or is she getting enough to eat? Does she have help with the baby, right? But it's very difficult for the people around you to see what's really, and to understand what's going on
Yeah.
inside of you. And that is the classic case with a lot of people who undergo anxiety or depression,
Mm.
right? They say,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, I never knew that person was going through depression." They're
So true.
always smiling. And so for me, it has always been, why should it be on the moms or the new mom with all of this additional trauma, that they go through, and taking care of the baby? Why is it on them again to be vocal about things that there is so much of stigma around? Like, how do I go and tell my spouse or my mom or my support system that, you guys are doing everything, but I'm still not feeling my 100%.
Yeah.
I'm still not present.
Yeah.
And so is there something that, we can tell our caregivers or, our partners about? What are some of the things that they can help with as well?
Mm-hmm.
Sort of identify the signs, because when I was going through postpartum depression, I did not know it was postpartum depression. I just assumed I was just tired.
Mm-hmm.
That's I attributed everything to being tired.
Yeah.
And it was my husband who was able to tell me that this is something different. Like, you're not the same, you know.
Hmm.
So what are some of the things that we can look out for, when we are supporting new moms?
Yeah, that's such a good question because this is something that really needs to be discussed. What happens is that it's not that the people around us are not caring enough. Our spouses, our parents, our in-laws, or our family friends, they might feel like they're doing a lot, but they just need to do things in the right way. So and that's why the guilt comes in, because you feel like, okay, they're making sure that you have a comfortable room. They make sure that you're eating on time. They make sure that you have help with the baby. So you feel guilty to even raise this topic up, that you're still unhappy, that that you still need support. You feel like, what, but everyone's doing so much for me. How can I still complain? And I experienced that because my mom-in-law was so caring. My sister-in-law, my husband was there with me, and I felt like, oh my god, I'm not allowed to be upset. I have, like, I have everything that a woman would need to have a smooth recovery period. And then you have those stories coming in from people around you,
Yep.
that, oh, back in the days, women gave birth without any help, and we didn't even get a chance to go to the hospital. We didn't even have any helpers. We did everything on our own. And then you
Yeah.
feel like the worst person alive. But I think it's very important for women to know that each to its own. Times have changed. Back then, women didn't really know the concept of these things, but now we know. So if we know, there's no harm in expressing our needs and telling that to our friends, relatives, and creating the awareness around, with the with any new mom that we see. So that's very essential. And yes, so while I was experiencing that how do I complain? Am I allowed to complain or tell everybody that, what, I'm still low because I want to go out. I'm still upset because my body has changed and I feel like there are things that I can't do anymore, or like staying up entire night and the feedings, and there's so much. But I think at some point we have to express, because until and unless we don't, they're not going to know. So
Yeah.
I think that can be done in a polite manner, letting them know that I really appreciate everything that you're doing for me and I'm very grateful for it. But at the same time, I would love if, I can be taken out for a walk maybe, or I would love if someone can just babysit my child for a while so I can, watch a movie, whatever resources you have, whatever little. I mean, it's different for everyone, but I think a woman should be allowed to do what makes her happy, even in that stage of her life. And I think there should be no shame in saying that, yeah, while you're eating well, while you are fed well, and you have a good environment, you still can be unhappy, because there's so much that's going on inside your body. And like you said, sometimes we just want to do it without giving a justification for it. So yeah.
One of the things that's not talked about, but truly needs to be addressed, and we need to definitely have more conversations around this, is just postpartum depression. Yes, it's mostly associated with moms, but on the other side of the spectrum, right? And this might be unpopular maybe, but I'm gonna still say it. Dads can also go through this feeling of being overwhelmed. It's a new experience for them as well. They may not have gone through the physical transformations in their body, but there definitely is a emotional and a mental transformation that's going in their minds as well. And when you talked about being vulnerable with your partner or caregiver, or, or your support system, it might make it easier if both the husband and wife, or like both partners, are equally vulnerable with each other, because you've created a life. uh,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? And so now you are in that safe space of sharing with one another, like, what does this whole journey of parenthood mean? Like, we are responsible for our life now, right? And it's a new
Absolutely.
experience
Yeah.
for them.
That's so well said, Nisha. Yeah, I totally agree with you. Of course, a woman is a lot more, what do you say, restricted because she's the one, her body is taking a toll. She's the one who's experienced giving birth. But it is a teamwork, and both the spouses, the husband and the wife, have to come together in this stage, and they should be, I think they should be at one, and they should be at the same page right now. They should not be against one another. Like, I've heard from my friends and I've read so many articles that how, the couples become distant from one another at this stage in life, and they kind of like lose the spark and stuff like that, which is, I think, is a topic in itself. Maybe we can save it for another time. But just to keep it simple, that yes, they've both been involved in creating a life, and they both have to be very honest with one another, and they both have to help each other, transition through this phase in a smooth manner, because no one can truly understand them other than each other, because they're partners for life.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think husbands, the fathers, experience a lot as well. There's a sudden there's a sudden shift of responsibility, and a lot of times they can be anxious about these expectations that the society can have from them. And I think that men can speak up about these things, of course. Like, you're all by yourself, and then suddenly you have a new member in the house, a small baby, and he or she has different demands. So the sleeping pattern changes, your activities, your lifestyle changes. So there can be nervousness for both the couples, uh, in regards to this. And this doesn't mean that they're bad parents. It just means that it's very natural to have these kind of apprehensions. And so I think the whole point is just to be able to help each other, get into this new phase with a lot of ease. I think both of them should be involved in making it easy for one another.
Yeah, yeah. And I think you also touched on this point of, yes, it's a new experience for both parties involved in, right? And that's why these conversations need to like take place not just after the baby is born, right? But just from that month of like conception to, what are we expecting? What are our roles? How can we support one another? And again, a lot of the onus is on the women, because again, we are the only ones who know what we are experiencing, and just the mental toll that takes on us. And I remember for me, I ensured that I was in constant touch with my gynecologist. So I was, yes, you do all your physical checkups and everything, but I think she was also really good with me on asking me like how I'm feeling, and if there was like any moments that I'm feeling like more emotional than like other days, and she would talk to my husband about it as well. So I think for me, throughout that journey of pregnancy, I had that emotional support. But despite that, despite being prepared, despite being, the checklist and everything, I still went through postpartum depression. So I think that's really important for our listeners to know
Mm.
as well, that you can do everything uh, that has been set out there. You can do your checklist, you can have your support system, and you don't have to blame yourself if you still go through that. And I think that is so important, because I went through that with both my kids, right? I thought, okay, I've already had it once, I don't have a reason to go through it again.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went through it again, like, and this time I was able to identify the feelings. I think that was the only advantage, of going through it the first
Mm.
time, was I was able to like really stay with my feelings,
Mhm.
give it that safe space. Because with my first, I remember I was just pushing those feelings away. Like, I'm not allowed to feel
Yeah,
sad. I'm
yeah.
not allowed to feel overwhelmed, because I have a baby.
Mhm.
We have a baby. I have a loving husband. My mom was with me for 6 months. So I joke to people and say that, hey, I didn't even know I had a baby for 6 months, because my
Wow,
mom took care of everything. So I
that's really great.
really,
Yeah,
did not have a reason to feel the stuff that I was
yeah,
feeling.
yeah,
Um, and so I think like that's also important to acknowledge, right? That you can still have it. But what is important is, once you realize you have it, how do you manage it? How do you deal with that? And as you know, as a mental health professional, I'd love for you to like just talk to us about what are some coping mechanisms, like how can
mhm.
we successfully, I don't like to say overcome postpartum
Yeah,
depression, because it'll always it can
yeah.
happen, right? It
It'll
can happen
pop
10
up.
years after birth.
Yeah, it'll pop up. So true.
So
You
like, how do
know,
you
yeah.
manage it? How do you
Hmm.
manage your symptoms?
Emotion.
Or
Yeah,
yeah,
symptoms. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, the example that you gave me of yours, again, it reinstills my point that you might have a lot of help, you might have everything, but still you're somewhere, you have a void inside of you, and then you feel like, what's wrong with me? You start questioning yourself because you feel like you have everything around you. You can't afford to complain. But it's very important to be kind to ourselves at this stage, at that stage, that it's not that you're being ungrateful. You can be grateful, but at the same time still want
Mm,
different things from life. These two things can coexist. So I think it's very important to be kind to yourself first and foremost, because when you practice that, I think people around you will also, I think you're going to set a standard for how people should treat you during your postpartum. So, um, reminding yourself again that, okay, like, I'm very grateful for everything that I have, the social support system, the facilities, the resources for me to be comfortable during this phase in life, my child. But I'm healing. I've just had a very I've had a life altering event. My life won't be the same again. So I'm allowed to have all kinds of emotions. And yes, I feel like, ways to cope with it. I feel like, of course, social support is great. Having a lot of mom friends who you can speak very honestly, and share your feelings with. Definitely Instagram is doing a wonderful job. There are a lot of, mom vloggers out there, and professionals who, put out amazing posts, and they're a great source of inspiration. That they remind you, and they give you suggestions and tips on how you need to take one day at a time, and
mhm,
just to be able to navigate through this new journey that you've just embarked upon. And I feel like, just being able to find time to do things that make you happy. Again, I read something very wonderful, is that, you have not entered the child's world. The child has entered your world. So you should
yeah.
be able to, you should be allowed to carry on doing the things that you love to do. But of course, just making some, modifications here and there, because you have a new member to look after. So I think I don't know how it is in other cultures, but yes, I know that in my culture, there's a typical 40 day set thingy where a woman is not encouraged to go out and just be home. But I feel like it's very toxic, to be honest. Though the elderlies and the the olden tales, they it's said that it's very beneficial and it's like the best thing for a woman to be at home. But I understand the logic behind it. I know that a woman is vulnerable, and her body is weak, and if she goes out, her and her child are susceptible to infections and diseases and the evil eye, whatever. But I just feel like it's still too much. Like, a woman should still at least be allowed to go for a walk and have her friends over, like, just do things. People should just be considerate enough to help her do things that make her feel happy, whether it's having a maybe, if you can't go out, maybe have a movie night at home with your
Mhm.
friends when your baby is asleep. Or maybe if you have someone who can look after your baby for some time, you can just go down and get some sun with your husband, go for a walk. Have someone at home to pamper you, maybe get a blow dry done, get your nails done, manicure done. Why not? Because these things do make you feel better. So I think with whatever resources people have, I think they should try and make the mom feel special, make the mom feel like there's still so much to her than just being a mom. Yeah,
Yeah. I think you said something there that it's important to be kind to yourself.
yeah,
And I think when we uh, become kind to ourselves, we allow ourselves to feel the feelings that we need to feel.
yeah,
Uh, a lot of the times, like you said, we are not allowed to feel sad. And when that
absolutely.
happens, is that when we don't allow ourselves to feel the emotions that we are feeling, right, without the feeling of guilt, then we are being kind to ourselves.
So true.
Um, so it's amazing you touched on that, because one of the things that I did was like exactly everything you said, right? And so I realized, like, with second time round, when I was more in touch with my feelings,
Mm-hmm.
um vulnerable enough to like share what I'm going through, and having my mom tribe, and not necessarily like telling them that, God, I'm feeling sad, but just spending time with them, even if it is like going out for a walk, even if you don't feel like doing it, right? Because I don't know, like, if others like have felt this, but that super heavy feeling on your
Yeah,
chest, like
totally.
you have something there, so you're physically incapable of moving pretty much. Uh,
Yes.
and so when you try and do all of these things and you're still not getting out of it, right?
Yeah.
That when do you, because I've heard people say, like, how do you go to your doctor for like postpartum? And these days, at least in the
Mhm.
US, how it works is gynecologists and your primary care providers are equipped with the tools to diagnose postpartum depression in you. So they'll ask you, your set of questions, all of those things.
Yeah.
When do you think is, I don't think there's a right time, but when should your next resort or next step in the process be to go to a professional?
Hmm. Okay. So yeah, I feel like after the after you've given birth, I'm sure all women, they have like frequent visits to the hospital for some or the other checkups. You're taking your baby for probably some vaccinations, or you're going to get your dressing changed, or just see if everything's okay. I feel like similarly there should be a mental health checkup as well. And again, this is on mental health organizations and like hospitals to make it a part to just have a holistic approach to a woman's recovery, and not make mental health so aloof, that which it is right now. Like you said, that we have to really think of maybe going to a different it's like it's a different pathway altogether if you want to seek a mental professional's help. So it should be a part of a woman's recovery. And like you said, sometime back, that when you were going to your doctor, she used to ask you how you were feeling and things like that, and that actually made you feel better.
Yeah.
Like, to have someone just ask about your feelings than just do your physical assessment. So I think that's important.
Thank you for your time. I think this has been
Of
very
course.
helpful, at least for people who are experiencing postpartum and not necessarily knowing what it is, but at least we've given them some tools and resources, like,
Absolutely.
like talk to your doctor, talk to your spouse, talk to your friends, talk to your
Hmm.
mom, talk to an aunt, like
Yeah.
whoever you trust. And I
And
think
have no shame. Yeah, like do not be hesitant to like say what you want, because sometimes they're not coming from a bad place. It's just that they don't know what you need. So if you tell them that, you know what, I don't like, I like, I'm happy with what I have, I'm grateful, but maybe I just need you to come and sit with me. Maybe I just want you to, like, maybe I just want to dress up at home. Maybe I just want to be taken out, something of that sort.
or maybe I just want to be left alone, like take
Maybe
the
I just
baby
want to be left
for a walk.
alone. Yeah,
I
exactly.
just want to at home. So no, so thank you so much for your time. I really, really enjoyed speaking to you. And I know this is not
Same.
like the last time. We're definitely
For
gonna
sure.
have you come over because there are so many more topics we can explore.
So
But
many more, so many more. But thank you so much, Misha. It was wonderful talking to you. I felt like I was just talking to a friend. It felt like therapy. It was like catharsis. And I feel like it's definitely going to be helpful. If I had something like this to listen to during my postpartum, it would have been so nice. But I think now that's the idea for women to, be able to access such audios, and, to be able to, like, to just let them know that they're not alone, and whatever they feel is valid.
absolutely, I think and I think in conclusion,
Yeah.
the takeaway from all of this is whatever you're feeling is valid, uh,
Yes.
right? And
You're
so
allowed
so
to.
you're allowed to feel that your feelings are valid, and it's important. So thank you again, Uneza. I'll let you get on with your day.
Sure. Thank you
Until
so
next time,
much.
of
Until next
course.
time. Thank you so much. Bye.